This is Dr. Sergio Canello.
Hi.
Hi. And his lovely wife, Michaela.
I thank you, and my wife. I thank you for seeing here. And I apologize for my English. I'm from Italy, and for me English not so easy. But I think that you can understand me. If you don't understand me, you can go away. I present myself. I'm a veterinarian, an Italian veterinarian. I had a clinic for 30 years, and in that time I have chance to discover what is poisoning our cats and dogs, because our cats and dogs are full of problems, and the problem is pet food. Pet food is incredible, but pet food is poisoning cats and dogs. This is very easy to verify, because you change to raw diet, for example, or the homemade diet, most of the problem disappear. And then it's easy to connect that is the problem is pet food. Why? And in this, there are a lot of different hypotheses. Now everyone has different hypotheses. It's grain. Oh, grain. The dog derived from the wolf, and then he cannot digest the grain. Not real, because only two races they cannot digest the grain, the husky and the dingo, because this is quite difficult, but it's easy. The ancient human, they divided them in hunter, in agriculture, in the people that collect the old. The dog the wolf that get dog in with the hunter, they continue to eat meat, and then they are not able to digest the grain. But the dog that they get with the agriculture human, then they began to eat the grain, and then they are able to digest the grain. There are research about this. The dog has between 20 and 40 genes that digest the carbohydrates. The wolf only 2. And then it's not real that the dog they cannot eat grain. But because a lot of people they want grain free, our line in the United States is grain free. We have grain free. Not only a line, we have not only one line grain free, other line, but we can people can choose. No, if they trust that it's they must eat a grain free product, they can use our legend line. Or not, we have the active line that is not the main product in Europe or in Japan, in Korea, in Russia, and everywhere, not in this continent. And no problem with the ground rice. We have any problem, any problem with the ground rice. And the other thing, the meat in this moment is poisoning cats and dogs. Meat deriving from intensive farming, not meat the problem, because the dogs are based in carnivore now. But the problem is what is into the meat, and especially into the bones of the animals. In this moment are the bones that are poisoning cats and dogs. The bones of the animals. Why? The dog were used to eat bones without any problem, and then now it's the same, but it depends of the derivation of the bones. If are from intensive farming, they are contaminated. If the bones are clean from animal free range, you don't have any problem. But usually you know that if you give the rest of the remainder of the grill to the dog, you can see that in a few hours appear or tearing, or shaking ear, or itch in the neck, or scratching in this area, or licking paw, or searching grass, or vomiting on empty stomach, or horrible flatulence, or diarrhea. This is very common, because the body must fight this toxin that they find in the bones. in the bones. The bones are poisoning cats and dogs. And we know, perfectly know, we are sure 100% that what is contaminating the bones are oxytetracycline. Oxytetracycline is a large use antibiotic in chicken, turkey, especially chicken, turkey. And this antibiotics is legally used, large used but legally. And it's not toxic for the animal. The chicken, turkey, they don't have any problem with the oxytetracycline. These antibiotics are used to avoid the pathologies linked to intensive farming. When you collect too many animals in a narrow space, you need the antibiotics, because if you don't use the antibiotics, you have large pathologies and you can kill all the animals. And then the problem is that these antibiotics get toxic when go in the bones of the animals. This is an unexpectable change that we discovered. We have a lot of research about this, because we have published more than 25 research in the last 2 years with 8 different universities, are all at disposition for you. You can read everything in very important and prestigious scientific journal. Not only my speech, because all I tell you, it's completely real. I don't tell lies. I hate to exaggerate, because also this really you will see that changing the food change everything, but it's normal. Hippocrates said, make that the food would be the first medicine. Now it's the first poison. Now we are poisoning all that we had all over in the world. The human is destroying everything. And we know that the food intolerance now are very common. Everyone has different food that they cannot eat. In the past, food intolerance, there weren't food intolerance. Now it's food intolerance, food allergies. In the past, you get allergic only about 10 years old. Now you can get allergic in 20 years, 40 years, 60 years, the last day of the life, every time. This is because we collect, and then explode the problem, burn all. The body has 2 ways to fight this toxin, because the body can fight something wrong in 2 ways. One is to eliminate this toxin, eliminate with tearing, with discharge of the ear, with the vomit on empty stomach, or itch in the neck, or scratching in the lumbar region, or flatulence, or diarrhea. All are the way to eliminate the toxin. It's the direct way to eliminate the toxins. And the other way is the inflammatory process. When we study medicine, we study that the inflammatory process is not pathologies, it's healing process. It's the way for the body to eliminate the toxin, something wrong. No? It's for me, it's the incinerator for your town. You have garbages, you have to put in incinerator and to burn them. This is the inflammatory process. And if you produce or introduce garbages daily, the inflammatory process must be chronic. And then this inflammatory process could appear everywhere. Could appear, it depends on the individual sensibility, could appear in the eyes, could appear in the ear, could appear in the mouth, in the skin, in the bladder, in the kidney, in the bowels, everywhere. No one organ can be free from this problem. But I think that's very logic. I don't think that I can surprise you, because are very logic. I tell that the food is the same as the gas of the car. If the gas is complete and clean, the car goes. If not, it doesn't go. And we are full of gas, very, very incomplete and polluted. Go. After more than 20 years in the past, I decided to, because I had a clinic, and this clinic, my work was to cure the dog and cats with food, because food was the problem, food is the solution. With the medicine, we cannot solve the problem, because if you don't take away the cause, you cannot win the consequence. This is the reason, because when you have, for example, chronic otitis, chronic infection, you cannot solve with the medicine. It's impossible, because if the cause is the food, you have to take away what causes the inflammatory process, and inflammatory process disappears spontaneously. No toxin, no inflammation. Diarrhea is the way to eliminate immediately now the toxin. You take away the toxin from the food, you see the diarrhea disappear in a few days, often in 1 day, 2 days. But you don't block the diarrhea. You take away the cause that provoked the diarrhea. And this is the same in the vomit on empty stomach. There are a lot of the dog and cats that they vomit during the night, only liquid. This is the way to eliminate the toxin. You change the food, the vomit disappears. In 2 days, disappear the vomit. And nobody knows this, because we fight, my colleague everywhere in the world, they fight with the medicine, but you cannot solve the problem if you don't take away the cause. And I have a chance to discover what is the real cause, this oxytetracycline, and we have also in vitro studies, because also not only scientific research about the problem in the apparatus, the different apparatus, the eyes apparatus, mouth apparatus, ear, kidney, bladder, bowel, everywhere, but also to demonstrate that this toxin, you can see the cells that destroy the cells, this toxin. Putting in contact the bones contaminated with this toxin, you see that the cells died. And the cells died, and you can have also genes damages and epigenetic damages. And this it means that also the next generation could born ill. Unfortunately, it is this. And then I decided in my clinic, my work was using ground rice, boiled cod, veggie, and fruit. Only this. And in that period, I tell you about between the middle of the 17th and the middle of the 19th, there were really lot of more than now problem. For example, ear infection were terrible. There were a lot of surgery to cut, to take away the duct, the auricular duct. In my clinic, I never used the surgery, because with the food, you see that the problem disappears spontaneously. It seems strange for you, this.
Yeah. I mean, it's you always think that if there's a problem, it's like, cut it out. If they have tumors, or if dogs have cancer, that is what they do. They do it for humans, so of course you want to do it for dogs as well.
Yes. For example, cancer, there are a lot of, now is full of cancer also in the dogs and cats. Why? The problem is that all all that can provoke inflammatory process, and if something that provoke inflammatory process is chronic, chronic inflammation is the fuel for the cancer. And because of this toxin, this oxytetracycline, is a residues of the oxytetracycline, is all over because it's in the traditional, conventional pet food, chicken meal is everywhere. The problem is chicken meal, but it's not allergy. It's not allergy. We think that the dog is allergic, but not real. It's because in the chicken, in the bones of the chicken, there is this toxin. This is the reason, because you can see that with some bones you don't have any problem. For example, with the raw diet, you see that the dog gets better, but you don't have stable situation. You have that usually you go up and down, up and down, up and down. And the reason is when the dog eats the bones that are contaminated. You don't know when they are contaminated. You don't know. No one. No. Because if there are from intensive farming, it's very easy that they contain this toxin. And then you can judge in a few hours if one treats, one snack, one wet food, one dry food, everything, one food from the table is contain this toxin, because in 2 hours appear the reaction. The reaction could appear as a tearing, or a shaking ear, or a itching, scratching, leaking paw, flatulence, diarrhea, all I told you. It's very simple. At the end,
I'm sorry, but just to clarify, so if I'm feeding my dog food basically all the time, and I can go months, years even, with never having a bad day, and then all of a sudden one day, for like no known reason, the dog has got diarrhea.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then but you say it's because
Yes.
sometimes even if I'm going to the same farm
Yes,
to buy food,
yes.
that sometimes it can be.
Yes, can be this because suddenly, sometimes they can use antibiotic only for 5 days, 6 days, because they have acute problem in their farm, and they use antibiotic, and then this go in the bones, and then you have or in the meat, especially in the skin. The problem are in the skin, in the fat, and the bones. In the meat is very few, the quantity, very few. This is the reason, because with the raw food you don't have problem with the meat. The meat is not uncontaminated, no problem with the meat.
Can vegetables be contaminated?
No. In my experience, no, not at all.
Can fat?
Fat, yes.
So how about if those chickens have eggs? Are the eggs contaminated as well?
Also can be contaminated, yes. Yes.
Whoa.
The problem is that the sanitary authority, they check the meat, they check the liver, the kidney, they check the eggs, they check the honey, they check but the problem is that the level of this the toxicity is so high that is less than 5 times what is allowed from the law allowed. Do you understand? The level that the sanitary authority,
Right, the FDA allows, right,
yes,
a level.
Yes, it's 100. But with 20 parts, you have big problem. Because the level is theoric, because a level, nobody cannot judge the right level of the residues. No one. Because you have to check lot of people, they eat with the same quantity. The level is for acute intoxication, but not for chronic intoxication. The problem is when you eat every time, every day, the same food contaminated. But this toxin is so toxic that you see immediately the reaction. Immediately, 2 hours, 3 hours, immediately. 3 symptoms appears in an amazing way. One is the itch in the neck, in the lumbar region, this scratching this region. And the other is the chronic diarrhea. Chronic diarrhea could disappear in 1 or 2 days, even if this chronic diarrhea is from 1 year, 5 years, 7 years. But it's no miracle. No toxin, the diarrhea disappears, because the diarrhea is the way to eliminate the toxin. No toxin, no diarrhea. It's amazing, but are not the food a miracle. It's only that you allow the nature to work normally. No reaction, because no problem. No problem, no reaction. And all that we have, every symptoms that we have to respect the symptoms, because they are tools from the body to fight. When we block the fever, block the cough, when we block the inflammatory process, when we block the diarrhea, when we block the vomit, is not correct, because we block the way from the body to eliminate, to fight the toxin.